Hi guys, today I thought I'd do a really quick video about names beginning with the letter A, which are very rare in this country. They're well outside the top 1000 in England and Wales, but they sound like or very similar in style to names which are currently in the top 100. There's no particular order to these names, but I'll get started with the girls. So first on my list for girls is Arabella. Now I know what some of you are thinking, hang on Ella, you've just chopped off a few letters off Arabella, that's cheating. Well, actually Arabella is a perfectly legitimate form of Arabella. In fact, it's been in use since at least the 13th century in medieval Scotland and used to be the vernacular form there as well as Arabella. The two names come from the same root. If you want to know a little bit more about its origins and its history, click on the link in the description below and that will take you to the name of the week post that I wrote about it. I think Arabella's a really great undiscovered choice, especially given that Isabel, Annabelle and even Arabella are all in the top 100 at the moment. So I'd really love to see lots more little Arabelles running around on playgrounds. Adelise. Now I know what you're thinking. This again sounds like I've just smushed together Adele and Elise and got a new name, but I assure you it is a perfectly legitimate medieval name. In fact, it's the medieval form of Adelaide, and both of them come from the old Germanic Adelidis, meaning noble sort. And in fact, Adelise is where we get Alice from, because Adelise was eventually contracted down. And both Adelise and Adelisa were very common forms of the name in the medieval period. One famous bearer was one of the wives of Henry I, called Adelise of Louvain, so it even has a really good royal connection. I think Adelise has got really nice sound to it, sounds really pretty, but it also is very familiar because it sounds like Elise or Eloise, even Adeline, which is rising at the moment, and it would even be a great way to honour someone in your family called Ada, maybe a great grandmother, or Elisa even. Another great medieval gem is Avice. Avice with the CE was introduced by the Normans in the Middle Ages, and it's a relative of Ava, so the two come from the same source. But Avice with an S also happens to be the Latin word for bird, which not only gives it a really nice nature vibe, but the two have been associated together, Avice with a C and Avice with the S, since the Middle Ages. So even back then people assumed that it meant bird. I think Avice has got a really nice sound to it. It's perfect if you like Alice or Ava or Iris, all of which are really popular at the moment, but you want something just a little bit different but still got loads of history to it. Next up is Arista, and for anyone who's a big fan of The Little Mermaid like me, you'll recognise this name as being one of Ariel's sisters in the film. The name actually comes from the Latin Arista, meaning an ear of corn, or by extension harvest. But personally it reminds me of one of my favourite Greek names, Aristeia, which comes from the Greek Aristos, meaning the best or the most excellent. And you could argue, I suppose, that Arista could be a feminine form of Aristos, meaning the best, if you wanted to. I think Arista's got loads of potential, especially given that Aurea and Ariana are rising so much in the top 100 at the moment. So I think it makes a really good alternate choice. Next on my list is Aurea, which comes from a Latin word meaning golden. In European countries, this tends to be pronounced Aurea, whereas over here in Britain, it's more commonly Oriya. It was actually a title of the Roman goddess Venus, the goddess of love, so she was known as the Golden One, which is a really nice association, I think. And it's been used in this country as a given name since the 17th century, but it has always been and still is very rare. But I think Oriya has not only got a lovely meaning, but it sounds really pretty, and it's very similar to Aria and Aurora, Aurelia, and Ariana, all of which are rising in England and Wales at the moment. Last on the list for girls is Atarah, and Atarah is a Hebrew name which appears as a character, a minor character in the Old Testament, and it means crown. It's been used as a name in this country since the 17th century, but it has always been very rare, which in some ways is quite surprising because we do like our names ending in Ara, like Clara, Zara, Tara, Lara, so I definitely think there's room for Atarah. I think it sounds really regal, quite romantic sounding name, but I also like the idea of the nickname Atty, which I think is quite cute and vintage. So now on to the boys, and first up is Alban, and Alban is the name of an ancient British saint who gave his name to St Albans, and his name comes from an old Celtic word meaning white or the world. I think Alban is a really stylish sounding name. It's got 2 syllables, ends in N, like so many popular names, Logan, Ethan, Nathan, Roman, I could go on. And also it's very similar to Albert, which has also recently joined the top 100 and is still rising. So I think Alban makes a really good alternate choice that still sounds like it's on trend. Next up is Acer, and Acer is the botanical name for the maple tree. And it comes from the Latin acer, meaning sharp, because the leaves on the maple tree are sharp and pointy, so that's where it got its name from. Acer sounds exactly like the lovely biblical name Acer, which currently is at 702 in England and Wales, which is why it wouldn't quite make this list. But that's why I think this Acer is a really great choice, because it sounds familiar, it sounds like the biblical name that most of us know about, but it's also got a botanical twist to it. So I think it's a really great choice for a nature name for a boy. There aren't many out there, so if you like river and Rowan and are looking for another really great nature name for a boy, then I think Acer is a real winner. Aidric is a very rare name, but I think it sounds really stylish. It was the name of a bishop in the 9th century of Le Mans, and he is now regarded as a saint. However, his name is actually a corruption of Aldric, so the name means old or ancient ruler. So the name is really rare because apart from this one saint, we didn't really get used elsewhere. But I think it's got a really fantastic sound to it. It sounds just like Aidan, but also it's got the ick ending that we find in Dominic and Frederick. Next up is Orden, and Orden is a surname which basically comes from Olden, which has 2 different origins in this country. It's either from the Old English, which means old friend, or it's from the Old Norse, meaning half Danish. There is a link in the description to the Name of the Week post that I did about this, so if you want to find more about it, please have a look. I think Orden sounds really ripe for revival. It's got that great surname sound, and it's similar to Aidan, Austin, Ashton, and all those other A 2-syllable ending in N names which are currently popular. Next is Arthen, and Arthen is an old Welsh name which means bear-born and is very similar in origin to Arthur because both of them come from the Celtic arto, meaning bear. However, Arthen with an A at the end is also an old Welsh word for winter, so it's got a bit of a double meaning there. I think Arthen is a really great choice at the moment, given that Arthur is currently so popular and rising, and again it's 2 syllables, ends in N, so it reminds us of Logan, Ethan, Roman, Nathan, all those are the really popular 2-syllable end in N names at the moment. So I definitely think Arthen is a really stylish choice. Finally on my list is Ollie, and Ollie is the anglicised spelling of the Scottish name Aulay, which itself is the Scots Gaelic form of the Norse Olaf, which was brought over to Scotland by the Vikings. It gave us the surname Macaulay, which we're all very familiar with thanks to the actor Macaulay Culkin, and it sounds great, I think, because it's very similar to Harley, Finley, Bailey, Riley, Ollie, lots of other popular top 100 names ending in Lee for a boy. But it's got a really ancient Scottish heritage to it, which I think gives it a really nice gravitas to it, and it's just something a little bit extra. So there we go. That's my top choices of names beginning with the letter A, which are very rare but sound like names in the top 100. Let me know what you think. Which ones would you pick, not pick, or which alternatives would you choose?